Hello and welcome to our latest video. We're hot on the heels of the Snooker World Championships ending. We'll be discussing who is the best snooker player of all time. There's a few players who might feel they have a right to be included in the discussion, with the likes of Steve Davis, Ray Reardon, Alex Higgins and even Jimmy White often regarded as some of the best, but the numbers point to two men being a little bit ahead of the rest. Stephen Hendry holds the record of having won the most world titles with 7. But does Ronnie O'Sullivan winning his 6th title last week bring the rug up past the Scot, or does Hendry still edge it? It's discussed in terms of world titles, which is the ultimate test for a snooker player. Hendry leads 7-6, but Ronnie still active and could equal or even surpass Hendry's record. It's also worth noting that Hendry won all his titles over a 9-year run. His first came in 1990 and his last came in 1999. With John Parrott, Ken Doherty and John Higgins the only others to win titles in the decade of the 1990s. Ronnie's won his 6 over a much longer period, with the first coming in 2001 and the most recent this year, 2020. So that's a 19-year period, which certainly gives him the edge in terms of longevity. An interesting record Hendry holds is for the longest period of being the world #1 player. Between April 1990 and May 1998, he was world #1, and then he had another year at the top of the rankings in May 2006 until May 2007. Ronnie's record isn't as good, and he's held the #1 spot for 5.5 years, and that's actually totaling over 4 different periods. He first hit the peak in May 2003 and remained there for 1 year. He returned to the top between May 2004 and May 2006. And then again in May 2008 to May 2010, before having another spell at the top from March 2019 to August 2019. While that record's impressive for Hendry, it could be argued that Ronnie's schedule isn't great for his ranking, as he tends to pick and choose his tournaments. In terms of major success, the Worlds are the top of the tree, but the other 2 tournaments that are regarded as majors in snooker terms, or together obviously they're known as the Triple Crown. Hendry's won 18 Triple Crown titles with his 7 World Championships, 5 UK Championships and 6 Masters titles. That's second best again to Ronnie, who has a total of 20 with 6 World titles, 7 UK Championships and 7 Masters titles. Snooker competitions tend to be split into ranking and non-ranking events. Once again, Ronnie and Hendry are at the top of the scale, with Hendry previously holding the record for most ranking event wins in 36, which Ronnie has now surpassed, having won 37 ranking events. However, just to muddy the waters a bit more, Hendry has won more tournaments overall, with a grand total of 75 wins to Ronnie's tally of 73. Ronnie may well go on to beat that record, but right now Hendry has got more silverware. To be a top class snooker player, you have to be able to score when you get a chance, and unsurprisingly Hendry and O'Sullivan are among the best. Hendry recorded 775 centuries in his career, but Ronnie leads the way in this category with over 1,000 breaks of 100 or more throughout his career. It's worth noting that the list of most 100 plus breaks does feature a lot of modern players, with Hendry the only player in the top 10 who is retired, so it's not necessarily a fair measure between the two. Similarly, the two are in top in terms of competitive 147 breaks, with Ronnie 15-11 ahead. But again, when Hendry won his last world title, there had only been 29 147s in competitive competitions, in comparison to the tally now that stands at 157. Finally, and arguably the fairest way to make a decision is head-to-head. The two have played each other 56 times in all manner of competitions, and it's Ronnie who has the edge with 30 wins. Hendry has 21 wins to his name, with the other 5 being drawn in events like the Premier League or the Old Matchroom League. In terms of total frames, it's a bit closer, with Ronnie having won 324 frames to Hendry's 296. As it stands, most of the numbers point to Ronnie being the best player of all time. He's surpassed Hendry in almost every category except world titles. However, Hendry and his supporters will point to that being the most important category, and they're right. Ronnie can certainly lay claim to being the best snooker player of all time, and overall most of the stats prove it. But if he wants to remove all doubt and take his place as the undisputed king of the beige, then he might still have to do a bit more when the tour reaches the Crucible Theatre next season.